Welcome back to the Nothing Notable podcast. Today we're going to talk about the Oscars and some of the movies that were nominated, but what else are we going to talk about to start this other than Will Smith's slap? So just Tyler, Jack and I were watching this live, so I already know what his thoughts were. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you guys right now.
I'm ready.
I didn't fucking watch the Oscars. I was just looking at the nominees and stuff, and then I heard about the slap, and then I did watch that. And I watched that over and over again for a while. And then Coda won Best Picture, and I was really mad about that. But let's talk about the slap in the room. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it is the most interesting thing to happen to the Oscars probably ever. I think Will Smith was being a little childish. Like Chris Rock it was kind of a low blow, but it was a joke. He doesn't know Jada Pinkett Smith has like alopecia. Like that's fine. Like you don't go up and like slap someone. I don't know. Beat him up at the after party if you want to beat him up. But like, I just think like it is kind of funny though, because they are like, I was telling this off mic, but like they're both a part of like the 1%, and it's just like it was a slap, and that was like it. I don't think like he could have killed Chris Rock. Like, no. I just think it was just weird, and like I don't know. I just thought it was weird and kind of funny, and then it was like memed so hard, which was really funny. But yeah, I would also say this is the first time the nation came together since the beginning of the pandemic, so that's kind of cool. It felt like the Tiger King stuff and shit like that. Like everyone can agree that not in the fact that like everyone can agree on it, but everyone's talking about it. Everyone like wants to know your take on it. And also like the memes are really fire right now.
Yeah, for sure. Jack, thoughts?
I think watching it was like the most surreal out of body thing. Like watching it happen live, I wasn't sure I was in reality. At the time, I was utterly confused at what happened, because first, like, we get the quote unquote technical difficulties that they're having, and it like glitches, and then it's like it looks like it's a bit, and then it's like muted for about 45 seconds, and I was so confused. Then online, you hear like the reports from people in the room is that he said, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth," and then we get the Australian and the Japanese broadcasts of it, and we actually hear what happened. We're like, oh, this is actually insane.
Yeah, this has already been discussed like so much on the internet by everybody, so like I just want to get our kind of quick thoughts out. I want to talk about the ceremony and the movies as well, but like what I think was so interesting, other than the actual incident itself, was like if you weren't watching the Oscars, you turned it on, and then it changed the entire vibe of the night after that. Because every time someone got up to win an award or to present an award, I would turn to Jack, or Jack would turn to me, and one of us would say, Will Smith is about to slap this person. Yeah. Like the whole vibe, and because everybody knew that Will Smith was going to win Best Actor. Like it was between him and Benedict Cumberbatch, and it seemed like Will Smith was the favorite all along. So it was just inevitable that he was going to win. So everyone in the back of their head is thinking, what's he gonna say? And so it became this like weird Hitchcockian like bomb under the table moment. And like then we get to the speech, and the speech is just even more embarrassing almost, because it's this half written speech that he was going to give about about Richard Williams and the Williams family, and then it's half like apologizing for what happened, but not really. Yet the whole thing was just an absolute mess. Completely ruined the evening for everybody else. Just a weird pop culture moment.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, imagine having to give a standing ovation to someone who like just like slapped someone.
But like, you didn't have to.
No, but like,
and also, but
they did. Like, everyone did.
But I don't think he should have been allowed to stay there. If we're being honest, I don't think you should be able to go like. You can use the word assault if you want to. I think it's a little dramatic for what happened, but I don't think you should be able to go up onto a stage, hit someone, and then get to sit in the front row still for another 90 minutes of the night. I think that's fucked up.
It was so weird. And because they tried not to cut back to him too often, but there were jokes made about him, so they had to cut back to him every now and then. And like he was laughing, and it just looked like nothing had happened for the rest of the night. And yeah, it was a weird vibe just having him in the front row, especially because every time a person won an award, they had to pass him and be like, hi. And that was weird.
Hello.
Well, if he leaves, like, would they just not announce the Best Actor, or would they announce
just have
it
someone
and then,
accept it on his behalf?
Would it be Jada?
No, she would leave too. She and her toxic ass can get out of here also. They're a horrible, bad group of people. So extremely toxic. They're like low.
What are you saying? They're like entangled in something or something?
I'm saying that they, several years ago, they created a Scientologist school for children.
That is also true.
That they quietly shut down. I just think, like...
You know the weirdest part about the whole situation, besides all of it, is that John Travolta was like up there.
Yes.
Too. Like,
the other
so
Scientologist,
weird.
yeah.
Why this moment is like so big and interesting and fun and like also terrible and sad is because like there are so many different angles that you can approach it from because there's the, like what you were hitting on, Tyler, this like 1% versus 1%er going and slapping somebody at like this silly award show. Like you can talk about that. There's also like the sort of like actual like assault aspect of it. Like you said, Jack, that word is a little dramatic. It's also like racially coded in the way that's being discussed by certain people. And like, then there's the Jada side of it. There's like the whole concept of like comedy and like what you're allowed to say, you know, Joe Rogan. So like, there's just like a million different ways to attack it. And it's just, it just is endlessly interesting to me.
Did you guys know prior to that moment that Jada had alopecia?
No.
Neither did I. Do you think Chris Rock knew?
No.
I don't think, as a Chris Rock connoisseur, as someone who's probably heard like almost every recorded word that's come out of his mouth, I don't think of him as like a malicious person who would do that type of joke. Just looking at the history of what he said, like you could talk about the joke he made 6 years ago at the Oscars, was like Jada wasn't even invited, like whole different type of thing. Like I don't think he's the type who would go out and like attack someone's medical condition.
Definitely not. I mean, I feel like if you talk about someone like Ricky Gervais, like maybe, but like when you get to this level of comedian, I don't think like there's that whole idea of like punching down and like, and I definitely think he didn't think he was punching down. Cause again, it's just like
really
a throwaway
punch
joke.
down at Jada Pinkett Smith too.
I was about to say, like they are like the Smith family is such like a royal Hollywood family where it's like, that's not even punching down. I mean, that's what one of my coworkers said, like, oh, I was punching down. I'm like, but it's Will and Jada. They're so huge. Like, right. And you know, they opened that Scientology school. There's like so many layers to it. And yeah, I don't think, again, Chris Rock didn't do it out of malicious intent. And I think that's what gets lost too. Like most comedians don't make a joke because they're like, this will be mean and it'll get to them. It's just like a stupid throwaway joke about how her head shaved, you know? And again, he didn't know she had alopecia. I think. Who knows though?
Yeah, I think the worst that you could say about Chris is that he made a bad joke. Not like a distasteful joke even, but just like a joke that wasn't that funny because it's like an outdated reference and nobody understood it. So like that's the most egregious, like that's the worst thing that Chris Rock did, honestly, is like just making a bad joke. Also, the way that these shows work, like I'm sure he wrote all of his jokes, but like it's also very possible that those jokes were not written by him because of the way that show is worked and workshopped for so long. I think he handled it pretty well after the fact. Like he didn't retaliate with
swing back.
He didn't swing back, and he didn't also make more jokes. Which, you know, he has that moment where he's like, okay. I don't have that. I mean, I have so much more to say about it, but like I don't have that much more that I want to talk about right now. Do you have any like final thoughts on that particular thing? Because like it really does overshadow the entire night. But
I said this already. I really did like when he said, "Uh-oh, Richard," like when Will Smith's coming up. It's just really good and fast. I mean, again, that just shows how much of a professional Chris Rock is. Like that's literally imagine just like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air coming at you, slapping you in the face. Like, I don't know what I would do. I'd be like, wow, like. I would I think say like Will Smith just slapped me, like Chris Rock did, but then after that he moved on, like, and he didn't like dwell on it and stuff. And I mean, yeah, I don't even, again, the whole idea of like Will Smith yelling at him continuously is also just kind of surprising, because I'm like, I mean, why didn't you yell first or something like that, you know? Like I don't know, there's so many other things he could have done besides just like slap him in the face. But
yeah, I have one last thought, but go ahead, Jack.
My last thoughts on this: don't tell people where your line is, because then they will just purposely go further past it and make more jokes about it. absolute losers the last 48 hours, Will and Jada. So many jokes about them, so many hilarious jokes, so many distasteful but hilarious jokes about them on the Twitter sphere.
Also, it reopens that box that I'm sure they didn't want reopened about the whole entanglement stuff a few years ago.
And then my final thought is like, Will, I think Will's got a lot of problems. I think he's probably really sad deep down inside.
Yeah.
Because I don't think like, he's probably really insecure actually about like his wife cheating on him or having like entanglements multiple times over on him. So that's why he's like, oh, I got to defend my woman now. And also I just think it's a miserable life to live where you let a joke make you so upset that you go up on stage on national television and hit someone. So I'm praying for Will actually.
He's just been in a pressure cooker, and like he's this whole campaign season, and he just released a book, and he's doing the Red Table Talk stuff, and yeah, it must suck to just have everybody just making jokes about your quote unquote manhood.
It also must suck to have your wife drag you onto her show on the internet to talk about how she cheated on you.
Yeah.
I rewatched part of that episode, or watched it for the first time, I should say, as opposed to just like clips of it on the internet this morning, and it's like real sad. He's like very uncomfortable the whole time, and she's like, I feel like a better person after doing it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. There are no winners in this situation. I think Chris Rock is pretty close. Well, there is one winner, and that definitively
is the Academy. Everyone's talking about the Oscars for the first time.
Won big time, and that's a good transition out of this, because I think I'm the only one here that like really enjoys the Oscars and like cares about the Oscars, not because I think that they are necessarily important, but just because I love the pageantry of it. I love a good show, and I think it's silly and fun, and I love that there's this night every year where all of the biggest celebrities get together and put on their gowns and their best suits and then play activist for 5 minutes, you know?
right like, yeah.
And I enjoy the heck out of that. So let's start talking about the ceremony itself, because I found it to be quite a boring ceremony. They tried to go back to some like tried and true methods. They have some hosts, they do some jokes, they have some bits, they have some pre-recorded stuff. They cut out a lot of stuff. Just overall, what were your thoughts on the night, the ceremony?
I think as a whole, just like my general thoughts about the Oscars as an institution is when I was younger, I thought they were really cool. And then I went through a period of time where I'm like, this is just fucking stupid. But now I'm at a point where just in life, like I appreciate seeing people like have like the highlight of their life. And like, it's really cool to me to like see people get like recognition that they deserve for like all the hard work that they've put in over their lifetime to like get to this moment. So I do enjoy them now more than I used to.
Yeah, I think overall, like, kind of similarly to you, I didn't watch this year. I don't think they matter as much, but I definitely think, like, to me, they don't matter as much. But I think to the people that win these awards, it does matter, because again, it's even if it wasn't televised, it'd still be like a big moment for them. You know what I mean? Again, it's an award ceremony with your peers for like, and unanimously, the Oscars are the biggest award show. You know, there's the Globes and like,
not anymore.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, there's some other award shows, but like I think the Oscars like actually mean something. And like again, I find myself like here and there looking back on like some Oscar awards ceremonies, and like mainly just like people winning Oscars. Like when Robin Williams won his Oscar, like that is an incredible moment. There's a lot of moments like that. And overall, I thought like the stuff I watched of this year was like pretty solid. But I'll just say like I don't know. I just don't think it's really like because like there are so many movies I watched last year that I enjoyed far more than like the movies that won / the movies that were nominated.
Yeah.
And like at this point, I'm kind of just like, yeah, like I like the movies I like, and like I don't really need to watch this anymore. But there are cool moments, of course, with it. And like I also thought it was really funny that they tried to do like a People's Choice thing.
Yeah.
And it was all Zack Snyder. Like that's so funny. Like
that was pay for play, right?
Yeah.
Like the Snyder family was like, look, we're gonna put a bunch of money into this, right? Like that has to be what happened.
Or maybe the internet was just like, we're gonna meme this so hard, and the Snyder bots are gonna like be victorious, and they were. I thought it's so funny that the not the aha moment, but like the crowd standing moment, in cinema history is is a scene that everyone watched on their laptops. Like it wasn't even like theatrically released. Like it was a moment where the Flash goes back in time, and then it killed me when the winner of the People's Choice for 2021 was Army of the Dead. Like that's,
you can check out our review.
Like yeah, check out our review for that. But you can't make that stuff up because it's like I knew it was going to be a meme answer, but like that is just so funny. And it is, I wish they kind of had an Oscar for best People's Choice Award because fucking Army of the Dead would have won. Like that's so hilarious.
Funny. So funny.
But yeah, I don't know. They're trying new things and it's interesting, but last year I watched it and I thought it was like pretty fine. I was really happy with the movies that were nominated. Like it wasn't like a great year for movies, but those movies in and of themselves were like decent. Like, but this year there was just like a lot of stuff where I'm just like, this is just like I don't know, most things with Code. Like I think Code is a fine movie, but like I just kind of felt like it was like the Green Book over again. It was just like, yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get there. Those are my thoughts though, real fast.
Yeah, okay. So here's what we'll do. Let me just break it down for the listener. We're gonna play a little game. I'm just gonna go through some of the things that happened. You're gonna give me yay or nay, basically, on whether they should continue to do these sorts of things in the future. I want to talk about like who the Oscars is supposed to be for now and going forward as well, because like I think it really doesn't. The show does not understand like what it wants to be at this point in time. And then I want to talk about the Best Picture nominees briefly, just give short reviews of all of them, talk about Coda winning and some of the other notable winners, and then we'll call it a day. So from this ceremony, number one, bringing out elderly people that are no longer feeling very well. Not a good look, right? Like why do we keep doing this?
I agree. I think, there are some elderly people, some legends who are like still know where they are.
Yeah.
The individual they chose for this one, I don't think knew where she was. It was real uncomfortable and sad to watch. But I do think there are people who like you could do that with hypothetically. I think they just need to do a better job of identifying that.
Also, that's something like you can always like pre-record too. Like you don't need to have them there live because like no matter what, like, I mean, if SNL teaches us anything, it's that like sometimes they're not even perfect. So it's like if people like in their 20s and 30s can't be perfect, it's like if you're doing a live show, just like honestly just pre-record stuff with legends, because that also like opens the door to like Betty White could have pre-recorded something before she like died, in like November, December. Like you could have stuff like that that's like, oh cool, like they wanted to have her on and it's like technically she got on because like they pre-recorded it and it was perfect because like that's how you want to remember people, I think.
Yeah, it was a deeply uncomfortable and sad moment because everyone was just like, oh, this is not going well. I think Lady Gaga handled it very well. Mm-hmm. She was very tender in that moment and very sweet, so I commend her for that. But yeah, just generally speaking, and I didn't very much like the I guess this will be the next question, yay or nay on the anniversary presenters. So the anniversary for the 28th anniversary for Pulp Fiction, they bring out those three actors. For White Men Can't Jump, they bring out those three actors.
28th?
28th.
That's just a random film
number
to pick that. Like if you want to do like the 50th or 25th, like sure, I get that, but like 28th, that just seems like a weird one to pick.
Right. And then they did The Godfather and Juno. And so what are your thoughts on that?
I'd honestly say nay, because I feel like just focus on the movies that are this year. Like there's so many other movies that came out that weren't nominated for anything. So just like focus on that, or like focus on the year prior stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't think we need to dig stuff up from the past.
I think what they're trying to do with that is like, they have to find something to break it up. So that it's not just like award, speech, back to back. And like, that's what they chose to do, I guess. But like, I don't know. It was weird. I can see a world where it makes sense, but it's, yeah.
How about yay or nay musical numbers during the show?
I mean, I know like it does break it up nicely, but I'm going to say nay. Like I've never been, but again, I'm a person that doesn't eat popcorn when they go to the movies because it's like a distraction. Like I'm like the opposite. Like I just give me the awards and everything and like let me go home afterwards. Like That's all I want, really. Like, it's not like I guess in football games you have commercials and stuff like the Super Bowl, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not like they're like being like, remember like Super Bowl like 2? Like, we're bringing the guys out.
They don't bring them out, but they will have like little video montages like this day in history, blah blah blah.
And
blah,
I think
blah.
that is perfectly fine. But like, again, like drudging people up and being like, look at that. Like, it's like, look how old John Travolta is now.
Right.
Like, or
He's
not
dancing.
how old.
He's
like,
dancing. Look, it's just like the movie. Yeah, I think the musical numbers like fine in concept, but I don't care. Like, this is a movie show.
I feel like they should just find a way to make like one big medley of all the musical numbers, and then you're like, here's just a 10-minute chunk of us just doing little snippets of the songs.
I don't know if this is on it too, but I'm also like nay with like introducing each Best Picture nominee like slowly throughout the show. I'm just like, you'll introduce it slowly if your nominees are correct. Like, it's like when these things get nominated throughout the thing, it's like, oh, that's probably nominated for Best Picture too. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Dune was probably talked about so much last night because it won like, or a few nights ago, like, because it won like 6 Oscars, right? The most, like, this year at least.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then also it was like nominated for a bunch of stuff, and then they probably had to introduce it as like a Best Picture nominee too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
How about hosts? Yay or nay? Do we need hosts or do we just give presenters?
I kind of like what they did this year in principle of having 3 people host, because I feel like it breaks it up a little more.
Yeah.
But I do like having a host because like I think just like for the show as a whole, you need something to break it up in between just doing awards.
Yeah. The thing is, I would like award, but I think the hosts are like great always. As in the sense of the concept of the hosts. I mean, I think Billy Crystal did some like really awesome stuff, and like it's so funny because when we were little, I don't know if it's just because we're like older now, but like when we were little, like hosting the Oscars was like a big thing. And probably around when Kevin Hart got kicked off was when like it just kind of like went south. But like I remember like, oh, when Seth MacFarlane was announced, it was like, whoa, that's like really cool. And I think he did a lot of like interesting bits. And like, I think, again, if you're doing an award show, like you like need a host. It's like a talent show or like a comedy show. And it breaks it up nicely, like Jack was saying.
Lastly, last yay or nay. This one might be a little bit too much, but yay or nay rank choice voting, because this will sort of segue into Coda, because I do believe that the reason the Coda won Best Picture was not because it was everybody's number 1, but rather because it was everybody's number 2, and enough people didn't like Power of the Dog that pushed it down. Do we like ranked choice voting for Best Picture? We're just talking about for the Oscars, you know. We're not talking about any other context where ranked choice voting matters. Just for the Oscars.
I think in concept, it should work. But in practice, I feel like it doesn't work. Because I feel like Green Book winning Best Picture was like a similar thing. Everyone felt like pretty good about it. So I'm going to say may. Maybe.
I can see where you're coming from there, because I think like maybe they just need to tweak the point system that they use for voting it. Like getting you like being like number 1 should get you significantly more points than like if you're everyone's like 3rd or 4th favorite film. Because I see why it exists, right? Because like if there's this real niche film that like 25% of the people hate or love, but like everyone else hates, like that might still like get the most number 1 votes, as opposed to going on. I don't know where my mind's going. But like that might get the most number 1 votes. Yeah. But like then there's a bunch of other films. You know what I'm saying.
Totally.
Honestly, I would love to see the ballots and stuff, but I think I'd have to wait to see, because sometimes they get it really right. Like Parasite winning Best Picture was like awesome, and then they just like snuck back and was like, yeah, just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like I think the Best Picture should be the film that the most people think is the best.
That's a perfect segue.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jack. You were just about to say something.
But what if 25% of the people think it is the best and the other 75 are a consensus that it is the worst? and no other film gets 26%. But like the other, like people are like, yeah, these other 3 films are definitely top 4, but they just can't decide what order to put them in.
Yeah, point system. I think you were right on. The point system has to be altered a little bit. But that segues really well into like what the Oscars should be. Not just the ceremony, but also like what should Best Picture be? Like what should the awards represent? Because in many ways, I don't think Coda is one of the 2 nominees that I did not see this year. Of course, I set myself up for failure.
No, I don't have Apple TV.
Okay, I saw Coda.
Yeah, so you're gonna be the only one that's gonna be able to talk about it. But just from the discourse that I've heard, everybody feels like it's like a fine movie. It's like a feel good movie. It's a pretty happy movie. It's in line, like you said, with like a Green Book. It's just something that makes you feel good about yourself. Whereas like Drive My Car is probably the best movie that was nominated.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
So is it supposed to? Because if it was Power of the Dog, then that would be awarding like sort of this auteurist technical achievement. It's a very respected movie, but not a very beloved movie. So like what is supposed to win Best Picture?
I mean, I think the best movie of the year, like the movie that challenge, like I think Parasite was a perfect Best Picture winner because like it is,
because it's the greatest movie of all time.
It's
you got to
one
a different example.
Yeah, but like here, let's pick a different example. Let's
Nomadland.
Or like Nomadland's a good example. I was gonna say Birdman.
I didn't see Birdman. Let's do Nomadland.
Okay, let's do Nomadland. We all talked about it on our review of Nomadland.
You can check that out here.
That is technically an amazing film, like with like how they made it. It is also just like a really, I mean, out of that bunch, it was just like a really like hard-hitting good film. But it also is challenging. I don't think it's as simple as like, it's not, I don't think, and again, like if people like feel-good movies, that's good, but I don't think a feel-good movie should win Best Picture. A Best Picture film should be challenging, like interesting, and like no one sees anything in it coming in a certain sense. Because I think Nomadland, even though, it you don't know where it's going because like it's just kind of like it is a hangout movie.
It's a little wandering.
And it's a little wandering.
Nomadic.
Yeah, nomadic. Exactly. And it like perfectly.
Oh, here's an example that gets thrown around a lot. How about like Forrest Gump versus Pulp Fiction?
Right.
Forrest Gump is the sort of like life affirming, very positive, warm story, and Pulp Fiction is the challenging sort of new age, like this is what cinema is going to become. So the Academy obviously chose Forrest Gump in that situation. Should Pulp Fiction have won? Is it actually like a curse, whoever wins Best Picture? Because I think, in my opinion, whoever wins Best Picture is kind of screwed. Like with a few exceptions, obviously. I don't think anyone is clowning on Moonlight, but like...
Well, because it also didn't win initially, technically.
Right. That's true. But when any movie that wins, it becomes like just like Ray Romano says in The Big Sick. He's like, I go on the internet and people hate Forrest Gump. The movie's awesome. And like it is. I love Forrest Gump. That's a great movie. It shouldn't get the kind of shit that it does, but it does because it beat Pulp Fiction for Best Picture.
That's just people in general, though. I feel like people just like, as a whole in our society, like don't like whatever like the winner is, like whatever the popular thing is.
Yeah, totally.
So I feel like no matter what it is, people are going to hate it.
And with the case of Parasite, also Parasite wins, and then not everyone, but a bunch of people on the internet are like, it's a foreign film. How does this win? And then they get all xenophobic about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the problem is it's a objectively subjective thing.
That is
like
true.
To say what is the best picture of the year. Like there's no like statistics or point system that we can give a movie to be like, yeah, that was the best one this whole year.
Right. With MVP voting, it's very obvious. It's like, oh, he threw for the most yards and the most touchdowns, and his team went and had 13 wins.
And sometimes when it's closer, we have like a little more nuanced discussion, but like generally speaking, yeah.
Right. But yeah, with Best Picture, it's pretty much impossible. And that's kind of one of the things I love about the Oscars is like, I love the controversy. I love that I love that Jessica Chastain won an Oscar this year for what was not her best performance. I think she's good in that movie, and I'm happy that she's an Academy Award winning actress now, but that's not her best performance, but it's very much a makeup Oscar. And like those little weird little in politic things are kind of fun to watch and to track. It's like, okay, well, she probably should have won for this movie, but they're going to make it up for her now. Or like Will Smith, it's like, it's been a whole career coming to this moment, you know, all that
like
sort of stuff.
PTA finally wins, it's going to be like, that's really not his best movie, but
no, it's going to be like his 8th best movie.
Yeah. by the time he wins Best Director. And honestly, I was kind of like, well, Jane Campion, I like knew would win, so I wasn't disappointed when PTA didn't win. But it was just like, okay, I get it. PTA it's going to be a little while longer.
For sure.
Next 10 years, I think.
Yeah. So we mentioned a couple of notable winners. Just a few that I want to mention before we talk about the Best Picture nominees and winner.
I will say on the last part of this discussion, I do think the Best Picture should be challenging and also is what the future of cinema is going to be. That's not going to work for every year, but like there should be. I mean, I love Titan and The Green Knight, so I think those two films should have definitely gotten some love, and they got neither. So for you, it should be to indicate what's coming as opposed to indicate what has been. Like as opposed to like a thing of the moment that it's in, it should be rather like this is what's coming. Yeah, like again, kind of like, I mean, even The Dark Knight could have won Best Picture, I think, in 2008, because like it was the start of the superhero craze in some ways.
Okay, a couple of the nominees that we'll talk about. Best foreign film went to Drive My Car, which is a movie that we absolutely love. I think that we all saw that one coming. So that's awesome. We'll talk about that when we talk about Best Picture nominees. Jane Campion, I just wanted to mention for Best Director. It's amazing that 2 straight years a woman has won Best Director after only one previously. So that indicates to me that the shift that they have made within the Academy, within expanding the amount of voters and expanding the diversity of those voters, is effectively working.
Yeah. Also, 2 women 2 years in a row that 100% deserve it.
100% deserve it. Yeah, because Jane Campion's had an amazing career, and this is Jack. We watched the movie together, and after we finished it, I was like, yeah, that was the best directed movie other than Dune, probably, because of the technical aspects of Dune. But like, yeah, nobody else could have directed Power of the Dog quite like Jane Campion. So it was really cool to see her win an award. Wasn't an exceptional speech, wasn't particularly interesting, but like just the fact that she gets to say,
I didn't even know they were announcing the award because Kevin Costner went on like a 10-minute monologue.
Wait, what was that movie he was in 2020? There were like 3 movies during the apocalypse, and Kevin Costner came out with the movie.
That's a good question. I don't remember. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can see the poster.
Dune swept up all of the technical Oscars, so that's definitely what should win that. So
deserved,
I think a lot of the Oscars exactly. For screenplay, I was kind of surprised by screenplay.
I'm very disappointed with screenplay.
Walk me through it.
I will say, I think screenplay, as I get older, I used to just think screenplay was like a throwaway award, but as you get older, you're like, oh, this is actually the best picture. This is the Cool Kids Club. Yeah, like when Get Out won best like original screenplay, I was like, hell yeah. Like that is Get Out's big Oscar.
Once you start writing screenplays, you're like, oh, I get it.
I get it now. Like this is actually the hardest thing to do of it. Yeah. So Coda and Belfast winning like best adapted and best original. Personally, and I know my picks aren't I think probably I haven't seen The Worst Person in the World, and I've heard like really good things about it, but I think probably Licorice Pizza and Drive My Car probably should have won, just because those films are like written incredibly, especially Drive My Car. We'll talk about Drive My Car soon, but like Belfast and Coda just seemed like the 2 choices that were like the safe choice.
Yeah.
I didn't see Belfast, but I did see Coda. And again, we'll talk about Coda when it's bigger, but like I again, the screenplay category I think is always the quote unquote actual best picture. It's like, this is the best written film. This is like this is how we can like sneak an award in for something. That's how Get Out won best picture, because it didn't actually, but it won best original screenplay, which is like huge for Jordan Peele. And it's always like with original screenplay, especially, it's like something that like, just like a writer that's not like well known can win. Like I think, like Spike Jonze won best original screenplay for Her, and that's super cool. Like people like that. Spike Lee won his Oscar through a screenplay award, and typically it's really cool. And then it's just like Kenneth Branagh. Like I don't know. Like I feel like Branagh's been in the game for so long, and it's like I don't know. I think he's also a better director than writer.
Yeah, it definitely felt like they were awarding him for one, the personal aspects of the story, because it's about his childhood, and then 2, they were awarding him because they were not going to award him for anything else, because it was like Jane Campion is going to win best director, and Belfast is not going to win best picture. So everyone, it felt sort of like a like a let's give everybody a piece of the candy sort of award.
And they fucking always screw over PTA with it.
Always.
Like, that's the fucked up part about it all.
And what's crazy is because, like you said, it's basically like winning Best Picture also, because what you're basically saying is if you have the best screenplay, you have our favorite story, essentially. Like, it's maybe sometime it could be the dialogue also. If like Aaron Sorkin wins, best original screenplay, it's because of the rat-a-tat of the dialogue.
At least he wasn't nominated this year.
But Get Out wins because of the story, and everyone's like, this is the best written story. And Belfast was not the best written story this year, so I was surprised by that.
And also Adam McKay did win best adapted for The Big Short. But like that, it's also just like PTA, like everything you said about Kenneth Branagh is the same thing with PTA just about. Like, I know it's like it's adapted from like one of his like friends who he like came up with, but like it's about the same San Fernando Valley and like his childhood too, in a weird way. And like that's Boogie Nights too. And sorry, I'm just going on a ramble about how PTA didn't win an Oscar this year, and he definitely should have. But again, like I also, with adapted screenplay, again, Coda was one of the safest movies I've ever seen in my life, which again, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I think if I watched it without knowing that it was gonna like be an Oscar darling, like I'd be like, oh, this was pretty good. And that's what I thought of Green Book before like it won everything. But I also think Dune probably should have won adapted. Dune or Drive My Car, because we'll talk about Dune when it comes to Best Picture, but like Dune is constantly called like the book that cannot be adapted.
Yeah. And
I think, not that I love Dune, but I definitely think it is the best they could have ever done.
It's the best adapted screenplay.
Yeah,
it's very impressive. Yeah,
exactly. And it's a really impressive feat. And again, they gave it to all the technical awards for that, so I'm not heartbroken over it. But I mean, again, Drive My Car probably should have won.
The one thing I'll say for Drive My Car, I was listening to an interview with the director of that movie, and it is based off of like, I think, short stories. And he was talking about how the way that the short stories are written, it deals with the tragedy aspect in flashback. So it doesn't start and go linearly. Instead, it sort of flashes back and forward. And so he decided that's not how he wanted to tell the story. So he reworked the story. So again, that's, a very well adapted story. And so because there's actually like work being done there. So yeah, I think either one of those, and I haven't read the Coda.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm sure they adapted Coda also.
Nah, they just wrote it. They just put it in format.
It'd be funny if we were just here and we're like, yeah, they just put it through a format. But again, like Coda seemed like, and this is no offense towards the person who wrote it, but it felt like I could have adapted it like that in a weird way. Like, cause it's just like it's a really sweet story and it's like just normal. Like, someone wants to go to college, so they apply, but they have family issues.
That's Lady Bird. I love Lady Bird.
Lady Bird's great. But again, Lady Bird is different.
You got like 0.904 Staten Islands.
Yeah, you got to follow Jack Hubert on Letterboxd.
Yeah, follow Jack on Letterboxd. Yeah.
Really good bit.
Oh, you didn't know? Jack has a Letterboxd too.
Bingo, bingo.
Someone say I have the Letterboxd.
Enough on screenplay rants.
Do you guys have any quick things about winners before we go into the all the Best Picture nominees?
That costume lady seemed cool.
Yeah, definitely. She was fun.
Yeah, Cruella's, honestly, I didn't see Cruella, but it looked pretty sick. Are we going to talk about acting categories at all or no?
You can now.
Yeah, I think something I figured out through my research was that it is really weird how they feel comfortable always with giving a person of color Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah.
Or actor. And again, with men, it's a little different. But Best Actress for the last 20 years has only gone to a white person. The last person of color to win, and this will be on Twitter next year. Trust me. The last person of color, Marion Cotillard is French, so
that's not a person of color.
So the last person of color to win was Halle Berry in 2002 for Monsters Ball. And I just think it's really weird because I went through all of them and I love Frances McDormand, but Frances McDormand has won 2 Best Actress, Leading Actress Oscars. And people of color in the last 20 years have won 0 Best Actress, like Leading Actress Oscars, which is just like really weird. Like, I don't know. Like, and I think in 2017, this could have been fixed because Viola Davis won for Best Supporting Actress, but she was the lead in Fences. Like,
a little category fraud, yeah.
It is just weird because, like, I'm curious if they do that more with women. Because again, I looked through it, and I'm not saying like Kristen Stewart would have been better, but like Kristen Stewart is queer, and like I think her performance is like something very unique. And I'm not saying like Jessica Chastain didn't deserve it, because she does, and like all of the Best Actress winners have deserved it, but it is just very unique, and it's very weird because it always seems like it's the it girl of that year,
right?
Especially when you look at like, for a span, it was like Jennifer Lawrence, Brie Larson, Emma Stone. It was like young, like late 20s, early 30s actresses that were just like coming up, and it's like the Oscar was like their big thing. And the same thing happened with Meryl Streep when she was coming up, stuff like that. So it is just very unique, and I just wanted to bring it up because I like looked through it and I was like, wow, that is shocking. I think it was either Kate Blanchett or Nicole Kidman that had also won 2 in the span of the last 20 years. It's just weird.
An observation.
It is. And that's, honestly, I think that contributes to why the supporting categories have always been, if not all of ours, definitely my favorite categories, is because it is the place where like Troy Kotsur wins an Oscar, you know, like a performer that you don't see anywhere else other than in a movie like Coda, or again, this is why Song Kang-ho should have been nominated for, you know, Best Supporting Actor, because like that's the category he can get nominated in, you know.
But he wouldn't, and yeah, I don't know. They're cowards. Nominate a foreign person for Best Actor or Best Actress,
or just give Jesse Plemons the award.
Yeah, that's true. Also
true. Yeah. Or even like last year, like the grandma from from Minari.
Yeah, but your point is absolutely true. It is always the supporting categories that win awards for people of color as opposed to the lead, and that definitely was something that was discussed during like the Oscars So White hashtag campaign, but has sort of been forgotten a little bit because like we have seen a growth in certain elements of diversity in the winners, but not all elements of diversity, because you know, like, you know, how many Asian men have won Best Actor, you know, like there's a million different like ethnicities and races of people that and people with disabilities and all sorts of people that are still not winning the awards. So and it's a whole
would
whole
you guys
thing.
Be yay or nay for like expanding categories a little bit?
That's really interesting
because this is my argument. More movies come out now. Like 40 years ago, like not as many movies come out as they do now. Like
even 10 years ago. Now we got all these different streaming platforms that are releasing
fucking movies coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could add in a couple extra ones. I won't be upset.
Yeah, why? Like I think 7 people. And also that just helps careers more. You know.
Yeah.
It's like Simon Rex could have been nominated this year because he definitely should have been.
Yeah, if they had like a breakthrough award for like the ingenue, so that they didn't have to award that to the Best Supporting Actress every year, or if they had like a sort of like a Comeback Player of the Year award for, for Simon Rex, you know.
Oh man. Just for Simon Rex.
Yeah, then I'm definitely in favor of certain categories being added. I'm not a huge fan of like the popcorn flick award, basically,
because we all know what's gonna win.
It's just gonna be
whatever Zack Snyder is working on.
Exactly. It's gonna be whatever like Marvel movie comes out, or like Zack Snyder movie or whatever.
Yeah, but it would have been interesting. It would have been a tight race between No Way Home and Army of the Dead.
So funny. So good. Okay, let's talk about the Best Picture nominees, because we saw between the three of us, we saw all of these movies.
You saw Belfast?
I saw Belfast.
Okay, I saw Belfast
with
Jack.
Okay, cool. We made it.
Okay, so we're gonna go pretty quick on these. If we want to, we can do a full review on this, any one of these at any point if anyone's interested.
It won't be.
Let's start with King Richard, because it was Will Smith's night. Big night for Will Smith.
Yeah. More ways than one.
In more ways than one.
Richard.
I'm going to. King Richard is a pretty good movie. I think it's better than your typical sports biopic. I think part of the reason is because it's very well shot. as far as like, sports biopics go. And I do really think that the Will Smith performance anchors that movie and is very strong. He has some moments in the clip that they used for his award when he's talking to Venus in the tennis court and he's crying. He's like, this is not just about like you and me. It's like for every little black girl. And like the way he chokes up, just the whole performance, he's making choices too. The movie's very good. All the supporting actors are very good. I think the tennis itself is very fun to watch. I think it's very well captured.
I think it's a good movie. As the tennis sketch?
No, not as good as our tennis sketch. No.
I think it's a very fun movie too. I think it captures like the whole zeitgeist at the time, just like everything going on then. And I think Will Smith is wonderful in it. Like he's really good in the film. And I also like John Bernthal in it.
Yeah,
like
he's
John
great.
Bernthal's like great in it. And the little girls that play Venus and Serena are really good too.
Women.
What?
Little Women.
The Little Women.
Great movie also.
Yeah,
Little
pretty.
Women.
Didn't see it
That was-
much like King Richard.
That was the last movie that I saw in theaters pre-pandemic. Little Women.
And now here we are.
And here we are. Overall, like really, really well shot. And like just, again, it built nicely, I think. And I like that they showed Richard Williams kind of like not in like the most perfect light. Like he had a lot of fallacies. That sequence early on where he's like literally about to shoot these people is like kind of insane. And then a drive-by just like gets them and he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Just very, again, like scenes like that are just like kind of thought-provoking and a bit challenging. I didn't love it, but I thought it was like pretty solid. I think I gave it like a 3.5.
Yeah, it's a good time. I think that's a fun movie to go check out at the theater. Jack, let's do Belfast. What did you think of Belfast?
It's very fine. I don't know. I was like real underwhelmed by it because we went to go see it back in Marin and Dan was like, this one's going to be nominated. It's going to get all the buzz.
Yeah.
And I saw it. I'm like, yeah, it's well made. It's a film. Didn't love it though.
It was the odds-on favorite coming out of a lot of the festivals where it was premiering. And like right out the get-go, everyone was like, this is going to win Best Picture. And then Power of the Dog comes along and, Coda comes along and all sorts of other things start happening. And then Belfast starts to take a nosedive. So it was positioned as a front runner early on. And so part of the reason that I didn't love it is also because of exactly what we were talking about earlier, how like you just sort of hate winners, that just naturally happens.
That is true.
And so, but the movie itself, like the cinematography is very nice. It's very well shot. It's beautiful black and white. The Van Morrison music is very fun, albeit a little confusing for the time. The performances are all good. I really like Kieran Hines particularly. I think he's great in the movie. It is just a fine movie though. I was watching it and I was like, I don't feel like this is the coming of age story that we should be awarding when there are movies like Moonlight or Roma that exist,
It's no King of Staten Island.
It's no King of Staten Island. But a fine enough movie. I gave it 2.5 stars just because I think it's really is just a okay movie.
5 out of 10.
I gave it 3.
How about...
Did Roma win Best Picture?
No.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. How about... We've talked about this a lot, so we'll keep it quick. Dune.
It was Green Book. I think it was Green Book that year. Dune is technically the best film of last year in the sense that it has scope. It's fucking insane to look at. The worm was awesome.
Got your spice running through your vein as you're watching that.
Yeah, his hand in that box was like, what the? Oh my god!
What's in the box?
When he uses the voice. It's awesome. No, but again, like the story is not there.
No, story is really uninteresting. I think part 2 will be way more interesting.
Yeah.
I just didn't care about any of these characters.
Costuming really cool. It looks very unique, I think, for a sci-fi film.
Yeah.
And as much as I want Denny to make more Blade Runner movies, this is fine.
Right. Jack, do you have any last thoughts on Dune?
I didn't see Dune.
Exactly.
We've been over this.
Don't Look Up.
I'm going.
Tyler, you and I saw Don't Look Up.
Don't watch it.
They don't look up reviews.
I like that joke. That was stupid.
It
I loved it.
was like she leaned into it with
Yeah.
how stupid of a joke it was.
That was good. Yeah, go ahead. Don't Look Up.
Yeah, because we didn't talk about this in our best of series. I don't. I don't. it just feels like snarky and stuff I don't like. I think if you want to make a movie about these subjects, you have to attack it with love and kindness and something like not snarky and like being like, isn't this fucking stupid? Like, look how idiotic everyone is. And it's like, no, that's not how you do it. Like, I don't know. I don't Don't Look Up at all. Like, I think I miss when Adam McKay did like Anchorman movies and like Step Brothers, and I wish he would do that. If he's listening right now, please. I need Anchorman 3 in my life. But yeah, I mean, overall, like Leo's like fine in it, but I again, it's everything. It's actually the ultimate movie because like it's like kind of just overhyped in general. Like Leo and Jennifer Lawrence are in it, like actors that like kind of, not that they're still A-listers and they're still wonderful and they're really good actors, but like 5 years ago was like when everyone like started loving them, and now it's kind of like, okay, like do something like interesting or thought-provoking. And like I bet they thought it was this, but I just think it just feels like everything everyone talks about on the internet,
right? Like
all the time, and it was just in a movie, and it's just like it just felt very obnoxious and obvious. And again, I want a movie like that to like, if you're going to be tackling stuff like that, like Trump era politics and stuff like that, like do it in like a unique way that makes you think about it, but also not make you relive it, because that was what it was doing, was making me relive like beginning of COVID and like everyone being like, oh, it doesn't matter and blah, 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 blah. And like, we're Americans. Like, I don't know. It was just like, it was very neoliberal in a sense, if I could put a word to it.
I definitely echo your sentiments about the snarkiness and how this is not the right approach for making a substantive change through film. There's plenty of arguments to be made that you can't make substantive change through film. I disagree. I think if you watch a movie like, and I keep referencing this on like every other podcast, but if you watch a movie like Come and See, you will be a staunchly anti-war person. Mm-hmm. And I think that is powerful. And I think the gates of heaven opened up for the director of that film. Yeah. But I think this movie Don't Look Up is like funny enough to me to make it watchable, but it is so snarky and so like obvious and obnoxious, like you said. But there are some really funny bits in there. I do genuinely think Jonah Hill is just on fire in this movie. I think he's so funny. Really good in it. I love the one Jennifer Lawrence bit that she has throughout the movie. There's some other moments that are pretty funny, but the movie isn't great.
I didn't like Vice, but it has one of my favorite bits in a movie that they use in a different movie that I saw recently.
How about we do West Side Story? You guys saw that? I did not.
Really well made. I just in general hate the story, but that's like not, their fault. The people who made the movie's fault at all. The story itself is just fucking stupid.
Yeah. It's kind of like Dune in that way, where it's like technically like incredible stories, like, but like I can forgive it.
I thought everyone was really good in it too, except for one person.
Yeah. Ariana DeBose was really good in it, and she deserves that Best Supporting Actress Oscar for sure. I thought this was Spielberg's best directed film in years, though. It felt like from the first shot, it was like there was so much passion in it, and I was like down for the ride. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 too. I just really had fun with West Side Story. And again, it's kind of like, ironically, it's like a turn your brain off movie, even though it's about like these touchy subjects, but it's so out of date that it's like, we know. So it's just like, now you can just like enjoy it. It's kind of like you can just enjoy it for what it is, which is just like a silly fun time at the movie.
I'm not a girl, I'm a boy.
Oh, that whole scene.
There is a character who's like that, who actually I think says that exact line.
Yeah. Also such a fun scene in like the jailhouse or whatever, that whole sequence.
Yeah. It's really well made. The story's just awful.
Yeah.
But that's, Stephen Sondheim's fault.
Okay, how about Tyler, one that we love, Licorice Pizza?
I love Licorice Pizza. I think it's one of the best movies of the year. I think it's in my top 6 now, because I watched a couple movies that I really like a little more over it. I think everyone is fantastic in it. It is just hanging out in the San Fernando Valley. I think I love hangout movies.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm a sucker for it. And like when people are like, yeah, my only issue was that it didn't have a story and it kind of just roamed around. I'm like, yeah, wasn't that nice?
Yeah. Yeah. I
really
definitely
liked
feel
it.
that. I think hangout movies are sort of a trap for young filmmakers because they're not like technically gifted enough to be able to pull it off. With some exceptions, obviously, Paul Thomas Anderson being one of them, and Richard Linklater being one of them. But when you get to the point in your career where Paul Thomas Anderson is at, where you're so technically evolved that you can like do a movie with literally no plot, or a plot that shifts and changes as it goes along, it doesn't matter. Because he is in total control the entire time, and I'm there for the ride. It's like such a good time. It's such a fun movie, and every time I hear the closing credits song, also, I'm just like full of joy and full of love and happiness.
Yeah,
really fun movie.
Definitely, and the credit sequence is awesome too.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I really like Licorice Pizza.
Power of the Dog, Jack.
Like, again, really good, but also like I'm kind of like, the more I think about it, the more like lukewarm I am on it. It like, I don't know, it left me a little flaccid.
Interesting. I love Power of the Dog. I think it's, again, definitely the best directed film of the year. Benedict Cumberbatch is pretty incredible in it. When I first started watching it, I was like, oh, he's like it's like, oh, this is like a guy who's pretending to be a cowboy. But then like the more you unravel the story, the more you're like, oh,
he's the guy pretending to be a cowboy.
Like, he has so many emotions and feelings, and it's like, wow, wait, that actually is a great performance by Benedict Cumberbatch. Because I remember thinking at the beginning, I'm like, this is bullshit. This guy, like,
this guy's not a
gay.
cowboy.
And then I'm like, oh, whoa, is gay. Yeah, it's like a really interesting story. I loved it, and it was great. I think Cody Smith-McPhee was also really good.
Got all the buzz.
He got all the buzz until he didn't, which is a bummer.
Now his dad has to keep driving Lyft.
Yeah. But no, it was great. I think again, it's just like no one else could have directed the movie besides Jane Campion.
I'll tell you what though, because I said that very same thing and I do agree with it, but also the more I'm thinking about it, because like you said, like Benedict Cumberbatch, when you first watch him in this movie, you're like, I don't know about this, and then he wins you over. I started thinking about like who could have played this part if this movie was made in various decades, and it's like this is a classic like Robert Redford part. Like this is like a classic, it's just like a million actors that like over the course of time could have done something really interesting. Red Fox.
Heath Ledger probably could have done.
Heath Ledger would have been great. There's like, and then you go the other route and you start looking at like oh my God, what's his name from the Terrence Malick movie? It doesn't matter, but you just start looking at a bunch of different actors this could be a movie that like if they like A Star Is Born, if they did this like 5 times, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. This is kind of fun. And I'm kind of here for that, like adapting books multiple times. It's a good movie.
Adapting movies multiple times. Yeah, really
good movie. We've talked about it before, so I won't say anything else.
Written by a Western writer.
Folks. Okay, we're coming to a close here. A few more. We got Nightmare Alley. Tyler, we talked about this a little bit already, but we both love it. Any new thoughts on it? Anything that's come to you in the recent days?
I was born for this movie. Let me tell you that. I think it's Benicio's maybe best film. Yeah. It's everything he's done before, but it is on such like another level. And I think the whole spiral of Bradley Cooper's character is fascinating. And again, Willem Dafoe's great in it too. There's so like every little part in it is so precise and so good. Cate Blanchett is great. I love this movie.
It grows in my estimation every day, I think, because Jack and I will periodically just be like, oh, I was born for it. and I think about how like, because I generally I don't like cynicism and I don't like snarkiness or like things that are like just mean. And I like Drive My Car because it's so beautiful and human and stuff, but when you're doing it so well, like Guillermo del Toro is doing it, then it's like, oh, this is a great thing to be watching also. And it is so like every single character is a bastard in this movie except for the Rooney Mara character. Everyone's a bastard, everyone's a piece of crap, and like it's so cynical about the world, and just like everyone's gonna try to screw you over or murder you or hurt women, and like it's just,
or take people and put them in a cage.
Literally
get them hooked on drugs and put them in a cage.
And it's so dark, but it's so well told and so well made and so precise and careful, and it really does, it hooks you, and it just, I think about it all the time. It's a really great movie. And
again, it's like everything The Shape of Water was, but like I think it's even more. And it is a shame that won Best Picture over Nightmare Alley, but I don't think he would have made Nightmare Alley without The Shape of Water. So
That's a good point.
Let me just say, because I didn't get to say my thoughts yet, I thought this was better than Power of the Dog.
Okay.
same.
Yeah.
Good
This
to
was
hear.
my number 2.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear. That's very good to hear.
Drive My Car was number 1.
We're not talking about it yet.
But we are talking about it now. Drive My Car is our next
Drive
movie.
My Car was my number 1. Loved it.
It's I'm gonna go ahead and just read my Letterboxd review, which should get more traction than it got. I'm just saying.
Someone didn't like it.
Nobody liked it.
I liked it.
No, never mind. You liked it.
Only person.
I didn't like it.
Okay. So I come out of the movie. First of all, I'm watching the movie with you two gentlemen next to me for free, and which is always
Shout out to Cinemark.
Important detail.
always makes the movies better. And the movie's just really well told and so well paced. I think it's the most well paced movie of the year. The music is amazing. I've listened to the score dozens of times now.
It's
since
magical.
then. When I'm driving around, it just makes me feel like I'm a better driver. The performances are all great. I love the story. Everything about it's so good. But once we get sort of closer towards the end and all the catharsis is happening, I really felt myself feeling cathartic. Like I really felt like I was becoming a better person from watching the movie. Like I was expelling demons as I was watching the movie. Here's my Letterboxd review. Okay. And this is sincere. This is not like a snarky Letterboxd review. When humans are gone and all that remains are the things we made, the aliens or the robots or whatever comes next, we'll be able to watch Drive My Car and get a sense of what it meant to be human. This is a beautiful movie about love, loss, communication, and art. Very moving, very cathartic.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, well, it's actually
that
good
is
to
very
better yourself.
Yeah, no, the film is wonderful. I love all the languages in it. I think that's very unique and interesting and like something I don't think about so much because in the United States, we all speak one language, okay? And it's don't look up. All right, that's the language we speak. But no, in all seriousness, I think it was really interesting to have these like long sequences where like you can understand everything everyone's saying, but it's like the more you listen, you're like, oh wow, they are just speaking a completely different language, and I didn't like pick up on that until recently. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, and again, it's great about art. The whole opening 40-minute cold open
Bold.
is
Dope.
bold and really wonderful. I think the whole just the sequences in bed, you just get like a very. And again, I imagine those sequences are woven throughout the actual story, throughout like the book, or the short story or whatever. But like that was a really interesting way because like as soon as you lose that, you're like, oh wow, this is just like a completely different movie now.
Yeah.
And you identify with the lead character so much because you're like, wow, like I like saw your life when it was different and
Yeah.
kind of like magical. Like the first shot of the film is like awesome.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this is really good. And then that whole sequence where he like walks into their apartment or their house after his flight gets delayed is like so well shot too, with like the mirror and stuff. Yeah, I mean the best picture of the year that was nominated for sure. I think I like Titan and Green Knight a little more, but those weren't nominated.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Jack, on this movie before you go to Coda?
Incredible. Great stuff.
Totally
Loved
agree.
it.
Last but not least, the best picture winner of this year, Coda. Tyler, you're the only one that saw it, so go ahead and just give me your thoughts.
Yeah, this is my cross to bear. Me watching this movie. It's fine. Again, I've kind of shit on it the whole time, but like it is solid. Like it's shot pretty well. It's in a unique environment. It's like on the East Coast, and it takes place like in like a small fishing town, and that's really cool. And like the whole like deaf communication, like with sign language and stuff, it's like super cool. All her family is like so nice and awesome, and like I understand how like you can't have like a nuanced story like that. Like it the only problem I have is like the lead character. Her whole story is just kind of what everyone's seen before. It's just like the only difference is that like her family's in like a fishing community instead of like like, I don't like what do other movies do? Like just like fucking like strict ass parents who like don't like music, like Footloose. It's like Footloose, except like they, you know, they don't care about the aspect of, they just can't identify with her because they're deaf and she's not. And, you know, there's some interesting scenes with that. But the overall story that you get is just like, girl wants to go to Berklee College of Music, and then she gets in and she goes, and then the movie ends. And you're like, there's so many other, like, that's kind of beat my like first screenplay. You know, it's just like kind of like, oh, and then the lead character leaves for whatever. And it's like, what I'm interested in now is like, but what is the, because it's not what you dream it is, you know, it is something different and something like visceral and real. And the whole movie was just like this foundation. It like sat on a foundation and went to a place that was just like, you've seen it. Like, this is just how movies are. This is a movie. And it's, you know, that's nothing wrong with it. And I think if I saw it earlier, I'd be like, yeah, this was a solid movie. But as a Best Picture winner, I don't think it just like, it doesn't live up to the Best Picture idea, I think, which is like something challenging and something that is interesting, because I've seen a lot of movies like this. There's a lot of movies where the lead character goes off into like a new future, and that's great, but it's like, that's a story I've seen a lot.
Tyler hates deaf people, is I think what he was trying to say.
Okay, no.
But isn't it interesting that like 2 years in a row we have movies with deaf people?
It is, yeah. There's definitely, like I said earlier, there is actually like an Academy push to make disability more visible, to make people of color more visible.
Yeah.
So that's all good. And it definitely feels like the Academy in part made this best picture as sort of like a pat themselves on the back sort of a thing as well, which could be said for Parasite as well.
Can I say something too? Because I love Sound of Metal. I think that's one of the best movies of last
year. You tried watching it on mute.
Yeah, iconic.
I know, because someone did here.
On accident.
But again, I think that movie worked because it wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't like, it had a unique story. I think my problem with Coda is not anything with the deaf actors in it.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. I think it just has everything to do with like the story that's average. Like, and yeah, that's just it. It's just like, I wish they had all these actors in like a different movie that was like more unique. Even like something like she doesn't get into college at the end. Like, that would have been interesting. Like, I know there's so many like nuanced takes you can have with a movie, but again, they didn't set out to make a Best Picture movie, you know? And it's nothing against the people who made it, because they made a really good movie. It's just against like, I guess, the Academy for being like, this is what a Best Picture movie is.
I think that's very well said. I will be watching it at some point. I probably won't watch West Side Story.
I don't think you need to.
Yeah, but it was a fun Oscars campaign. I had a good time. The Oscars award show was insane. Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about that earlier, I think. The whole thing was crazy.
Get my coda out of your mouth.
Whoa.
That's what people are saying to me right now.
I'm going to
end this podcast.
This is a good ending, though.
Tyler Pruyn just smacked the shit out of me.
Get nothing notable out your damn mouth.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
That's it, I guess.
Thanks for listening.